In the heart of the South-South geopolitical zone of Nigeria lies Akwa Ibom State, a land steeped in rich history and culture. Bordered by Cross River State to the east, Rivers and Abia State to the west, and the Atlantic Ocean to the south. Akwa Ibom State derived its name from the Akwa Ibom River that flows through its land before meeting the Bight of Bonny. In 1987, Akwa Ibom State was carved out of Cross River State, with Uyo as its capital and 31 local government areas under its jurisdiction. This state's history is deeply intertwined with that of the ancient Opobo kingdom, which was once part of southeastern state until the 1970s. A boundary adjustment exercise split Opobo, with Opobo Island becoming part of River State and the mainland part renamed Ikot Abasi, now located in the present-day Akwa Ibom State. Sources say ancient Ikot Abasi referred to the smaller settlement, but the name has assumed a more or less generic dimension in recent times. In the larger sense, today's Ikot Abasi comprises of 5 clans, with the palace of the paramount ruler of Ikot Abasi within Upomokon clan. Overlooking the river, which separates Ikot Abasi from Opobo Island, a number of quaint bungalows, 1 or 2 of these blocks served as offices to the Ikot Abasi Traditional Rulers Council. Opposite this chief secretariat, across a narrow asphalt lane, is a monument that was unveiled on December 16, 1985 by Justice Udoma. The spot where the sculpture was being installed is believed to be the place where some of the brave women were martyred in 1929. The modern-day Akwa Ibom State is home to various ethnic groups, primarily the Ibibio, Anang, and Oron people. These groups have inhabited the region for centuries, with the area's pre-colonial history marked by existence of city-states like the Ibom Kingdom and Akwa Ibom, which later became a British protectorate in 1884 under the Oil Rivers Protectorate. Today, Akwa Ibom State's economy is largely driven by the production of crude oil and natural gas, making it one of the leading oil-producing states in Nigeria. However, the state's history is not without its dark chapters, notably the era of slave trade. In the ancient time of Opobo, now known as Ikot Abasi, lies the Bridge of No Return, a haunting reminder of the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. This bridge was the final point where slaves were taken from Opobo town, marched across the bridge, and loaded onto ships bound for Europe and the Americas. It stands as a somber testament to the countless lives lost and families torn apart by this inhumane trade. The biggest irony in life is that inasmuch as the Bridge of No Return in Ikot Abasi, a popular town in Akwa Ibom State, it is one of the safest places in the area despite leaving historical scars on scores of families. The history of the Bridge of No Return dates back to the 18th and 19th centuries. Many slaves were captured from the hinterlands and taken to the coastal regions where they will be sold to European traders. The bridge is an existing remnant of the atrocities that occurred during the slave trade era. It is infamous as the last point of discharge of slaves into the waiting slave ships that eventually sailed them into slavery. As the name suggests, no slave who walked the bridge ever returned. Deary as these memories are for centuries now, today this bridge remains a safe haven. In spite of the fact that the colonial British administration abolished local slavery in 1880s, they tactically let it to continue far into the 1930s, and it was not abolished entirely until the 1940s. The newly independent First Nigerian Republic ratified the 1926 Slavery Convention the same year in 1961. According to historical accounts, the Ikot Abasi route was popular for colonial masters. They would capture and sell hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children as slaves to European and American slave masters. Europeans built the jetty in 1795. It's a floating jetty and has 3 major underground compartments which were used to store very hostile slaves. Each slab held 30 people, while the whole jetty had a capacity to hold 150 people. For donkey years, thousands of slaves left their ancestral land for Europe and the US, where they started a new life as peasants. In total, 31.7% of all slaves acquired by force in South and Southeast passed through the Bridge of No Return. Slaves were led from the fort to the canoes below, and the canoes would then transport them to the waiting slave ship. They would then sail across the Atlantic Ocean to the huge plantations in Europe and the America. They were held in dungeons until a ship arrived to take them to their new homes. They were always in chains and labeled, and many of them died during the waiting days or after being dumped into the sea. Most deaths were due to the inconvenient arrangements of humans in cargo items. Many peasants were traded for umbrellas, firearms, kettles, cups, Dane guns, pottery bowls, brass dishes, and tea mugs. The slave traders traded 40 elderly men for a single umbrella. The famous Jaja of Opobo, whose real name remains unknown till date, was also exiled through the bridge on December 1st, 1887, after he was found guilty by Sir Walter Hume's group of allegedly inciting the people against the government. Ikot Abasi has an unaccountable number of monuments. However, over the past years, this historical city has received little attention from Nigerians and its government as much as its major tourist attraction site. In a nutshell, slavery was a painful thing, but there is a good side to it nevertheless. There are big proponents of African American descent and music such as jazz. These slaves used music as a tool for expression and agitation. Over the years, this music genre has become huge. Despite its grim history, the Bridge of No Return now serves as a symbol of resilience and hope. Visitors can stand on its sturdy structure, reflecting on the past while appreciating the freedom and dignity they enjoy today. Akwa Ibom State may have endured the pain of slavery, but it has emerged stronger with a vibrant culture and a rich heritage that continues to captivate the visitors from around the world.